Okay, so you want to buy a casino, put up a building, fill it with slot machines, and let mathematics quietly take money from strangers around the clock. Here's the strange part. A casino is the only legal business on the planet where the math guarantees you win. Not probably. Guaranteed by the rules of the games themselves. And it is also a business where some of the richest, smartest operators alive have gone spectacularly bankrupt, sometimes twice. By the end of this video, you'll know how a casino actually extracts money from the people inside it, why a guaranteed mathematical edge still isn't enough to keep you solvent, and why the thing you're buying is not really a casino at all. This channel breaks down the real economics of businesses like this one, so subscribe if you want the honest math instead of the movie version. So let's go shopping. Casinos come in 3 sizes, and they are 3 completely different businesses wearing the same word. At the bottom is the small regional property. A couple hundred slot machines, a few tables, a bar, a parking lot, sitting in a small gambling town or attached to a local market. Depending on the state and the license, these change hands in the low millions. Nobody flies across the world for it. Locals come on Tuesday, lose $80, and go home. Boring, and boring is not an insult in this business. The middle tier is the regional destination resort, a real hotel with real restaurants, pulling drivers from neighboring states. Those run into the hundreds of millions, sometimes past $1 billion once you've built the towers and the parking structures. And then there's the top of the market, the Las Vegas Strip, where the price stops making sense to normal humans. Modern strip resorts have been built for $2-3 billion. You are no longer buying a casino. You are buying a small city that happens to have a gambling floor in the basement of its business model. Now, where do you actually buy one? 3 doors, and only one of them is easy. Door 1, build it yourself. You need land, capital, and roughly 3 to 4 years, and you need to survive the entire construction period earning $0 while the interest clock runs. Door 2, the secondary market, buying an existing property from an operator who wants out or a company pruning its portfolio. This is the sane route because the building already works, the customers already know where it is, and you can read the actual numbers instead of forecasting them. Door 3 is the bargain bin, and this is where the corpses are. Casinos go bankrupt often enough that distressed properties come up regularly, sometimes selling for a fraction of what they cost to build. Sounds like the deal of the century. Hold that thought because we're coming back to it, and the reason those buildings were cheap is the whole point of this video. But before any of that, there's a cost nobody warns you about. The license. You cannot simply buy a casino the way you'd buy a restaurant. Gaming regulators investigate your finances, your partners, your criminal history, and your source of funds down to the studs, and the process takes months and costs a fortune before you're allowed to own anything. In some jurisdictions, just applying costs millions of dollars, and there's no refund if they say no. You are paying for permission to spend more money. And in the biggest market on earth, permission barely exists at all. Macau runs on a concession system that started in January of 2023, and the government issues exactly 6 concessions for the entire city on a 10-year term. 6. That's the whole market, in the place that generated about 247 billion patakas of gaming revenue in 2025, roughly $30 billion US. Okay, the deal is done. You own a casino. Now let's talk about how the money actually appears, because this is the part people get wrong in an interesting way. Every game on your floor is rigged. Not in the cheating sense. The dice are honest, the cards are real, the wheel is true. The rules are rigged, and the rules are public. The simplest way to see it. You and I flip a coin. Heads, I pay you $1. Tails, you pay me $1. That's a fair game, and neither of us gets rich. Now I change one number. Heads, I still pay you $1. Tails, you pay me $1.05. Same coin, same odds, same honest flip. But now every single flip, on average, 5 cents walks toward me. Over one flip, meaningless. Over 10 million flips, that 5 cents builds a hotel. That gap is called the house edge, and every game in your building is a different costume on the same idea. Roulette is the cleanest example. A European will has 37 pockets, so hitting your number is a 36 to 1 shot, but the casino pays you 35 to 1. That missing payout is your profit, about 2.7% of everything wagered. Then some clever operator added a second green pocket, the 00. The player sees a nearly identical wheel and the same payout. The math sees the edge jump to 5.26%, roughly double from one extra slot the customer never thinks about. Your edge is not a hope. It is engineering. Here's the part that surprises people. The high rollers at the blackjack table are not your best customers. Blackjack, played reasonably well, gives the house an edge of well under 1%. Slot machines run 5 to 15%, and the cheaper the machine, the fatter the edge. The retiree feeding $20 into a penny slot all afternoon is, per dollar wagered, worth many times more to you than the man in the suit betting $500 a hand. The numbers back it up. On the Las Vegas Strip in 2025, slot machines won about $4.95 billion, while every table game, plus sports betting, plus race and bingo combined, won about $3.86 billion. The quiet machines beat the glamorous tables, and it isn't close. And the edge only works if the customer stays. This is why the building itself is a machine. No windows, no clocks, carpet designed to nudge your eyes up toward the screens. The path from any table to the exit routed past 10 more rows of slots. None of that is decoration, it's time engineering because the math needs volume to do its job. Then there's the loyalty card, which is the most surgical retention system any industry has ever built. Free card, you insert it, and every bet you make is now measured. From that data they calculate your theoretical loss, meaning what the math says you should lose over the evening. Bet $10,000 at a 5% edge, and your theoretical loss is $500. The casino then hands back a slice of that number as a free dinner, a free room, a free drink. It looks like generosity. It's a rebate on money you haven't lost yet. If this is already changing how you see a casino floor, hit like, it takes 1 second. At the very top of your customer pyramid sits a tiny group who distort everything, the whales. A handful of players wagering sums that would buy a house per hand. This is why a casino will fly someone in on a private jet, hand them a suite that rents for thousands a night, and charge them nothing. Spending $500,000 hosting one player for a weekend is perfectly rational arithmetic when the math says that player is expected to lose several million. The catch is that whales make your revenue lumpy and unpredictable. A single high roller running hot for one weekend can dent a quarter's earnings at a real property. The edge still wins eventually, but eventually can arrive after your quarterly report does. This is exactly why Baccarat, the whales game, swings strip revenue around so violently from month to month, and why one cold streak from international premium players shows up in the numbers of a multi-billion-dollar company. So the whole revenue engine is one line. House edge times how much gets wagered times how long people stay times how often they come back. Every design choice in the building exists to inflate one of those four numbers. Which brings us to the paradox. If the math is guaranteed, why do casino owners keep going broke? Because the math only decides the top line. Everything underneath it is a knife fight. Look at the 2025 numbers from Nevada, which are genuinely remarkable. Gamblers lost $15.8 billion statewide, the highest total in the state's history. On the Strip specifically, casinos won about $8.8 billion, roughly flat, even though visitor volume fell 7.5%. The math held perfectly. Fewer people showed up and the machines still hit their numbers. Now the other side of that ledger. In the same fiscal year, the 51 Strip casinos that generate $1 million or more in gaming revenue reported combined net income of $154 million, down $666 million, a drop of 81% from the year before, on $8.8 billion of gaming revenue. Read that again. Record gambling losses by customers. Net income down 81%. Statewide, casino net income fell about 35% to $1.7 billion. The house won every single bet it was supposed to win and the owners still had a miserable year. Where does it all go? Payroll first. Strip properties employed about 92,000 people in 2025, and that was after cutting roughly 3,000 jobs. Then taxes, which vary wildly by geography and can decide whether you have a business at all. Nevada is famously gentle. Macau takes an effective 40% of gross gaming revenue, straight off the top, which is why gaming taxes made up around 83% of the entire Macau government's revenue in 2025. You are not really an owner there. You are a tax collector with a nightclub. Then the costs that exist only because you're a casino. Surveillance departments watching every table, every cashier, every door, continuously doing nothing else. Fresh decks swapped out constantly to stop marking. Enormous quantities of physical cash sitting in the building, which has to be counted, guarded, and insured. Free drinks poured by the thousand, not out of kindness, but because a loosened-up gambler bets bigger and stays longer. And people who drink fall down, argue, and hire lawyers, so your liability premiums climb every year. The math gives you a guaranteed top line. Nothing below it is guaranteed at all. Now, the graveyard, because two mistakes show up in almost every famous casino failure. Mistake 1, debt that needs everything to go right. In 1990, Donald Trump opened the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, financed largely with roughly $675 million of junk bonds carrying interest around 14%, before paying a single employee, The property needed to generate close to $100 million a year just to service that debt. It missed its first bond payment within months and was in bankruptcy by 1991. The building wasn't the problem. The building's homework was due before it opened. Mistake 2, building the wrong product for the customers who actually exist. In 2012, a $2.4 billion property called Revel opened in Atlantic City, designed for a sophisticated crowd rather than the bus trip regulars who kept that boardwalk alive. It banned smoking on the gaming floor, skipped the buffet. The elegant new customers never materialized, the old ones felt unwelcome, and it closed roughly 2 years later, eventually selling for about $82 million, a few cents on the construction dollar. Both stories end the same way. The house edge was fine. The house edge is always fine. Everything else killed them. And now we can go back to door 3, the bargain bin, and answer why those distressed buildings were cheap. A casino that failed did not fail because the math stopped working. It failed because of debt or location or the wrong customer or a tax regime, and none of those problems get fixed when the building changes hands. Revel sold for cents on the dollar because the boardwalk around it could not fill it, and the new owner inherited the same boardwalk. Rule number 1 of this business: you are not buying the mathematical edge. Everyone gets the same edge. You are buying whatever was strangling the previous owner. And this is education, not financial advice, so please do your own research before buying anything with a gaming floor in it. Let's calculate what you actually earn. 2 scenarios. Optimistic scenario: the small regional casino. You paid a few $1 million. You do maybe $10 million a year in gaming revenue from locals who show up whether or not there's a convention in town. Your costs are modest because you don't employ 4,000 people or maintain a fountain. You might clear around $2 million a year and pay yourself back in a handful of years. Nobody makes a movie about you. Your accountant is delighted. Realistic scenario: the Strip Resort. You paid $1 billion or more. Your property does, let's say, $900 million in total revenue, and only about a third of that comes from gambling. The rest is hotel rooms at nearly $200 a night, restaurants, shows, conventions, retail. In a good year you clear $200 or $300 million and look like a genius. In a year like 2025, when visitation drops 7%, a few slot machines run slightly cold, and expenses rise anyway, that same building's profit can collapse by 80% while gamblers are losing more money than ever. Same edge, same rules, wildly different outcome. Notice what that means. A modern strip casino is barely a casino. It's a hotel and entertainment company that uses gambling as the thing that gets you in the door, and gambling is now the minority of its revenue. So here's the honest summary of this business. You are buying a guaranteed revenue mechanism bolted to a completely unguaranteed everything else. Your debt, your labor costs, your tax jurisdiction, your timing, your ability to correctly guess which humans want to be inside your building. The math is bulletproof. You are not. Drop a comment, and I read everyone. Would you take the boring little regional casino printing $2 million a year? Or the strip resort that can make $300 million and lose most of it in a bad year? And subscribe before you go, because next we're doing the economics of owning a private island, where the purchase price turns out to be the cheapest part of the whole disaster. Because the old line is true: the house always wins. It just forgot to mention that owning the house is a completely different bet.